now. So we're going to do Bob's above shoulders. I call them lines, as we've explained before why I call it a line. Here's a point. If you have your EPA and you say, I'm going to do a line above my guest's shoulders, she'll say, why not, what do you mean? Why don't you call it a one length? The examiner, I mean. And you explain, well, it's not a one length because it's your heaviest form of graduation, because as we go up around the round surface of the head, the hair's getting longer to hit down onto that one point. So rather than calling it one length, I call it a line. It's gonna blow her mind. Then if you kill her with that sort of terminology, you're on the road to distinction anyway. Okay, I want to start first of all and talk about this little thing here that I've drawn. Now you can't see that, so I'm going to shut the shutters just a second so that you can see. Oops, goodness me! So you can see what I've drawn on here. Can you see that? Yeah, good. So this is the back of somebody's body. Okay, it doesn't look it, but we've got 3 bones in the back of their head. Yeah. So we've got our occipital bone, which we know is knocking around in there somewhere. Okay, so it's right in the center, just in between the ears. There's 2 bones in here and in here. Okay, so in your 2 points behind your ear, if you feel the back of your head, you have 2 bones jutting out. They're called your mastoid process bones. Okay, so you haven't got to remember that. That's not massively important really until you get to level 3. The reason I'm talking about these is because my technique that I use for cutting a bob, your balance will be perfect on both sides, I promise you. Okay, I can absolutely guarantee you that your balance will be perfect if you work this way. Okay, if you don't like this way and you find it complicated, ignore it. All right, and use the way you know. This is my technique. If you feel a better way is better, use that better way. If you found your own way, use that way. I don't care. As long as it's perfect and really nice and clean, you're going to pass your EPA. All right. It doesn't matter how you cut it. You can do a handstand and cut it. If it's perfect, it doesn't matter. Okay. But what's important about these mastoid process bones here is they are the point in the back where your head really severely rounds off. So it's quite flat almost, not flat, but it's almost flat in the back. You hit your mastoid process and then it curves into the front, okay? So what we're gonna utilize is these bones as our stopping point for when we're doing our line in the back. But also what's important is to understand where these bones sit on your body. So if you run a line down from your mastoid process into your center of your back, you're going to hit your shoulder blades, okay? So your shoulder blades are, that is your shoulder blades, isn't it? These ones in here, yeah, that's your collarbone. You're going to hit your shoulder blades, okay? So when we were working our lines in week 1, and or when you do it in academy, and you're over directing back, so from front to back, and you're pulling everything into here, and sometimes you get one side longer than the other. It's because you're pulling the hair too far round or not enough round. But if you focus on where the shoulder blades are on the back of the person, and you're pulling the hair back to those shoulder blades, your balance is going to be perfect because your body's staying the same and you're pulling this side to here and you're pulling this side to here. They're traveling the same distance. So if you use the shoulder blades in your lines below shoulders or your one links below, you're going to keep your balance on both sides. So it makes sense that if we're doing something above shoulders, we use something in line with the shoulder blades, which is our mastoid process bones. Okay. So if you explain to your examiner, she's going to say, I'm just opening the shutters again. Your examiner is going to say to you, how are you going to approach your haircut today? If you're doing a bob or you're doing a restyle up to a bob, and you say, well, I'm going to find that I struggle a little bit when I'm working with keeping my balance. So I'm going to work just up to my mastoid process bone to ensure my balance in the back. And then when I come into the sides, I'm going to have a really clean guideline from my mastoid process bone all the way into the front hairline, and I can guarantee my balance. If you say that as an answer, she's not even going to come back over to you because you're going to kill her with that terminology. And it's something so simple, but so effective when you're working in an exam, is to just show them how much you know, as Rob was saying earlier, show how much you know just by talking. And then when she checks your work, she's going to see that it's perfect, because let's be fair, you've all been training a while. You know how to do your work. I know it's difficult at the minute, but you know what you're doing. So show her. So I've sectioned my first piece away from my crown area into the top of the ear. I work my section, instead of my radial, I go from the crown just to protect this slight area here and protect the hair as we come up and around the ears, because the density changes, as we talked about last week. Okay, so then into the back, I've extended my profile from the front to the back and a nice central section. And I'm going to work my line slightly diagonal into the front. And I'm going to keep this long because I'm going to do a similar cut tomorrow at 2 p.m. on the Art Team Live demos, and start talking about actual bone structures and facial features as well. So come on to that call as well. All right, so my sections are slightly slanted into the front, okay? Anyone know why I have them slightly slanted and not horizontal? Why have I not got them dead horizontal?
But they don't like round when you come to do the sides.
Yeah. Well, why do they round when we come to the sides? If they're,
or if you're I don't know about sections, but I know if like your head's down when you're cutting the back, then you get a straight line. But if you keep it down and you go around to the sides, then it's gonna go like up rather than going like down and be like weighty.
Absolutely. So we're cutting the hair like this and we're cutting a straight line. As soon as she lifts her head up, the line's going to flow. Perfect. Absolutely. And nobody walks down the road like that. So you've got to cut the sides up, but we want to make sure we keep enough length in there to ensure that if we do have a little bit more to cut off, we can. I'm a very conservative hair cutter. I don't like doing things that I don't know is going to work. I really definitely don't like doing things that I'm not sure of how it's going to end up. So like you say, Grace, we want to make sure we keep a nice bit of length, but when we lift the head, it's still going to be correct. Okay, so I'm going to work with my body position is the most important thing. So I'm going to keep myself flat. When I was working and training, I always had too much weight on the left, and I'd stand in one place and people said, don't move your feet. And I'd make sure that my comb, I was cutting through my comb, but my shoulders were dropping. So I was turning around the hair like this, or turning around the back of the guest's head. So I may as well be moving my body. Keep your shoulders flat, keep your body straight, I cut through the comb, and I'll explain why in a moment. But if you're just moving yourself up and down like this, you're keeping yourself flat, which means you're going to guarantee you don't drop your shoulders and drop your weight. Okay, as soon as you drop yourself down, you're going to lose control of the overall look. You've got to keep yourself flat. And we're only working up to our mastoid process. So I'm going to leave these pieces, pretty much leave those out. Okay, and you'll see why in a little bit. So you can push the head down on the back of the neck if you want to. Use a little bit less tension if you want to. Personally, I cut it on or in my comb. Anyone know why I cut it in the comb as opposed to pushing it flat onto the person's neck? Can anyone think of why we would do that?
So you don't get like graduation at the end?
Okay, yeah, good. But why would you get graduation?
If it's like elevated a little, or you're pulling it too much, or...
Absolutely. So if you hit it right there, actually, Grace, if you cut it in your fingers, you're elevating the hair away by a finger's width. Okay, and as we know from our elevation chart, as soon as you lift away from the back of the guest, you're taking weight out. So it makes sense that we want to keep it as close as we can. But if we push it really tight down onto the guest's neck, the hair's not sitting where it naturally wants to sit, because ultimately our heads go in and our necks go in and then they come out to hit our back. So there's a slight curve in there, isn't there? So you're pushing the hair further than it actually wants to go by just pushing it against the back of the neck, okay? So what I personally tend to do is just cut the hair in the comb at its natural fall. And I find that works an awful lot better. It's not wrong if you cut it on the neck, just don't use as much tension as you're pulling it down and you'll be the same, okay? So I'm gonna leave this long because I've got another few haircuts to do on this block. So I'm gonna do the same technique, but just keep it like a long bob. It's the same technique applies if you're coming right up here all the way up to the hairline, okay? And tomorrow I'm going to take it nice and short. So if we watch that, or I'll send you the video to it, but you'll see the exact same technique, okay? To keep a head nice and flat, and I'm using the small end of my comb, and I'm going to keep my body nice and flat and run the hair down and use my length that I'd like to go to, okay? So you can see my shoulders are flat. I'm not leaning, I'm not moving around. I'm keeping everything as flat as I want it to be, okay? And we are going over to where my mastoid process is and leaving it out. If I go any further, you see my shoulders start to drop as I come and keep it as close as I can to the person, but my shoulders want to be here, and now I'm here. So I'm losing control of the line already, okay? So that'll do for me in that back piece. I'm going to move up. All right, so section number 2 into here. So parallel sections, making sure that we don't go too diagonal or start to go too flat. So keep them just slightly facing the front. And again, we're going to run our shapes. I'm going to spray it down. And we're going to come back into the center back, and I'm going to keep my shoulders really nice and flat. Okay, scissors in behind the hair and under the comb just to keep control, and down to where we want to be. Find your guide and run that line. Okay, so again into the shape, and just push it as far over as you can go without dropping your shoulders. So if I see in here, I can just get one more little piece before I start to drop and come into the side. Okay, so you'll see here, I've got my line, and then I'm just leaving out these pieces. And that is where my mastoid process bone will be, where the head starts to round in and start to curve. Okay, so now we're coming up, I'm going to do one more section before we hit the sides. So into the top. And similarly in here. So one leg bob, or a line below shoulders, is the most difficult haircut to do, okay? Because everything's all about your body position. And if you lift the hair slightly, as Grace says, you're going to get your graduation because you're elevating the hair. If you move too much around, you're going to lose control of how the look actually sits. It's so difficult. Anything where you're doing layers or graduation, you've done the length already. So then all of this hair is now, you're taking weight out of it. But because everything falls onto the same point and it will be checked thoroughly, you've got to be very in control of your body position and actually what your body's doing. So again, shoulders nice and flat, comb from the very top, keep it nice and clean in the comb. And all I'm doing is just moving my body up and down when I'm working. So everything's staying in a straight line, okay? And then in here, come to the point where I can just about find that I'm not losing my shoulder control. And we should be balanced in that back piece, okay? So now that we've come higher, and we're now sitting on the ear, I'm just gonna run this on my head sheets here so you can see what we're doing. So, section down the base, and we're slightly diagonal sections up to the ear, okay? And then everything that we're cutting, we're down into this point. So internally of our mastoid process, and each section that we're cutting is coming down onto that one line, okay? So now that we're hitting the back, or hitting the sides, you can, it's completely up to you how you work. I'm very particular about how I cut my side sections. If we're going to be keeping the same weight going through the whole haircut, and we've come up parallel with our sections the whole way, and then we start to change that and go and just do the back and come up to where our crown section is, or our radial section if you're higher, you're almost pushing too much weight into the side of the haircut. So we want to keep our sections parallel the whole way through the whole haircut. Okay, so we're going to come from back into the front and combine the back into the front together. Okay, so we're going to run our shape from the back all the way into the front. So we don't change the way the hair's falling at any period in the haircut. Okay, that way for me, it's so much easier to connect your area in behind your mastoid process, but it's also incredibly easy to control your overall look. So everything just falls down into the natural fall of the hair. Now, I know a couple of weeks ago, we started talking about this whole area here behind the ear and how we lose half the density of the hair as we're coming up. So we've got double the thickness here as we do here. So it makes sense that we want the hair to fall in its natural fall. If we pull this area of hair back to here, we're elongating our length. So we're going to lose control of our balance quite heavily. Okay. So this way is the way I work. And it's the only way I've ever got my balance perfect after cutting it. You still have to clean up afterwards at the very end, which you guys know about. So I'm not going to belittle you into talking you through that. But it's so crucial that we keep ourselves really nice and tidy. So we're going to come from back to front, okay? Parallel sections all the way into the guest's front hairline. Comb this out and keep that nice tension to the hair. So again, clip it away and we've got another nice clean section. So again, when you're in EPA and your examiner's walking around and having a little look, she don't walk around that much. But when she comes around and has a look, if your sections are whoppingly clean and they're wallop in there, perfect, she's going to look and think, oh, they're knowing how to control hair as well. If you've got messiness all over the place and you've got like 6 clips knocking around, she's going to start to pay more attention to you. So keep your work neat, keep your work tidy. It keeps your mind neat and tidy as well. Okay. So now we're going to come back into the back because we've still got some hair to cut leading up. So the head stays in the same place and we're nice and flat, nice and square into the shape. And we're going to do the exact same thing as we did before. So run ourselves down, keep your head up. The times I see people keeping their body but tilt their head, which is very important. It's difficult, but keep yourself nice and straight. Okay. And, oh, look at that. Just pulled my section out now. Damn. So, run that round. And now come and do one side first. Complete one whole side. So, as Grace was saying earlier, we want to lift the head now because we're coming into the side. So I'm going to lift the head up and push it slightly away from where I'm working. If you get a 90-degree angle between the chin and the chest line, okay, when she's here, she could be reading a book or texting on her phone, lift the head up, okay? If she's looking at the lights because they're flickering, put her head down. Make sure there's that 90 degrees because that way, as long as your body's flat and you've got your balance in the back, and her head's in the same position when you're on the left to the right, you will get your balance. I promise you, okay? So now I'm going to twist it so you can see her and stand out of the way. We've got our head in the right place. Our section's away, nice and clean, nice and tidy. And we're going to run our line in. So I would be standing right in front of the camera here, but I've got to do it so you can see. So we're going to comb down. The hair here behind the ear, this hair naturally wants to fall behind the ear. So I don't understand why people try and pull it back here because you're going to lose your weight. You're over directing and you're pulling the hair longer into here, into the underneath. Okay. So keep it in its natural fall, keep it nice and evenly damp throughout. And all we're going to do is the same. So we're going to comb from the top. Our section is our cutting line. So comb from the very top, get your angle nice and smooth and run the hair from the back mastoid process into the side, and you can see my guide in there, and we're just going to keep our body nice and flat. I'm leaning because I'm trying to see, I'm standing out of the way, and we're just going to run that line into the side of the head and then start pushing that line all the way forwards. Okay, now this is a long bob, I do apologize, but I've got to keep length in the look, but it's the same technique all the way through. Okay, so we're now, all I've done is just this the whole way around the head, okay? But we've used the guide from behind the mastoid process bone just to ensure that the hair is naturally in its natural fall and naturally where we want it to be, okay? So then we move up the head. So another section from the top, pull this down, And we're going to change the way the head is. So we're going to push her back forwards because we want to come back into the back. I'm going to run out of hair because I've layered the life out of this mannequin over the last few weeks, but chances are you won't. So we come back into the back and keep our bodies nice and flat up to the mastoid process bone. And then we need to move our head again. So lift the head up, push it slightly away. And we've got that 90-degree angle between the chin and the chest line. Section's all nice and clean. I'm going to work this side patch in again. Okay. So again, we're standing in the side and chances are I've run out of hair all the way around here. And then just continue through. I have. Perks of working on really layered hair is you only do a little bit of it. So that's me done now for this side, but you can see the technique. So we're going to come and connect this other side now and see just how much balance we've created or balance that we've ensured as we've worked around. So if I spin her round, we can see that my bob or my long bob is pretty smooth, okay, the whole way around there. And it's balanced. It's made sure we're nice and balanced, but we do need to connect that now with the left. So what do? Exactly the same technique, okay? So if I spin so you can see, if I come in here, maybe you'll be able to see it. We've hit the top of the ears now, yeah? So we want to get that flow all the way into the front piece of the hair. So pull away, comb the hair. Really good about sectioning is just comb the hair into place. If you use the wide end of your comb, you can comb it all round, pick where you want it to go, and just hold it with your thumb. And there's a really clean section in there, okay? So if you can't really do it with the bottom of your comb, just comb everything into place, groom the hair around where you want it to go. Your thumb acts as your clip it in, and then comb down and pop your clip in, okay? And that's a really easy way of combing. As long as you've got the hair all nicely combed through and all really nicely conditioned, if you will, you're going to find it nice and easy. So we want to push the head back forwards, okay? And I'm going to try and show you the mastoid process bone connection a bit easier without losing my balance. So I'm going to come into the back, first of all, and make sure we've not got any hair to cut. I've run out of hair. So we're going to go up to the mastoid process. And then we need to lift that head again. Don't worry about moving her head around all the time. That is what you're there for. She knows she's going to have to move her head because in a dentist, the dentist doesn't mind if you have, he doesn't worry if you've got your mouth open the whole time, does he? So similar sort of thing, except hopefully they've not got their mouth open. But hey ho. So 90 degrees between the chin and the chest line. Her head's back in the position we were on the other side. And we're just going to work that round. Okay. So we're going to see, put her forward a little bit. So we're going to see, there's my guide from my mastoid process. And I just want to run that line all the way into the front. So if I come back over to this side so you can see, it's hard doing this. Keep my body nice and flat. We're going to pick up the guideline and just run that line into the front. Okay? Hopefully I'm out of the way. So nice and easy, nice tension all the way around the head. And push in. Now, if she's got quite big sticky outer ears, you have to worry about the ears. Okay, my ears, for instance, my ears stick out quite a bit. So if I was having a bob, you'd have to do something around the ears. Now, people will say, pull it down and tap above the ears. That's fine. What does tapping above the ears do? What's it? Anyone tell me what it actually achieves for you by tapping? Anybody know?
It like reduces the tension that you're pulling it with, so to like allow space for the ears.
Absolutely. And if you don't do that and they've got sticking out ears, then you're going to get a bit of a hole down here because you're pulling the hair down with lots of tension, as Grace says. But a nice way of working it, if that doesn't really work, or their ears protrude a lot, a nice way to work it is with the wide end of your comb, just in the front of the ear, so just in front of where the ear is. Pull that back and round the back of the ear, okay? So pull it round, really light tension, follow the flow of the hairline, and then pull it down in your comb and cut it in here. Okay. When you come back across the ear, what you'll find is the hair comes round, hits that nice length, and then gets longer in the front of the ear. So then all you need to do is come to the front of the ear where the ear gets flatter again and just run that in. So you'll find that the ears are flat in here, and then this is the bit where it all sticks out, the big flabby bit. So you've got to make sure that when you covering yourself on this piece, so this piece can sit nice and flat, okay? So again, just take that around with the wide end of your comb, very, very light tension indeed. If you explain this through to your examiner, she will, well, she'll probably ask you to do her hair. So you've really got to make sure that you're explaining your stuff. So that's why I say work near the examiner. Explain this to your client. They're not going to have a clue what you're doing, but say, I'm just going to over direct, make sure you shout it. I'm just going to over direct your ear around the back of the hair with a light tension to ensure that I don't get a hole. If you say that to her, if she hears that, she's going to come over and have a look and check out your work. And then honestly, you're going to get yourself a distinction. Okay. Explain yourself through as you're going. Make sure the examiner hears you. Get in there early. Get in the exam room early, or the salon because it's done at work. But get in the salon early and find out where she's setting up and set up near her. I know it sounds weird because in school, I used to set up as far away from the teacher as I possibly could. And I'm sure a few of you guys did as well. But in an exam, set up near where she is, yeah? I promise you, she's going to hear everything that you're doing. And as long as you're explaining stuff, you're fine, okay? And again, we're going to come into the sides. We've run out of hair again, but I'm going to show you anyway. Pick up your guide from your Masto process and just run your line all the way into the front, okay? And now what we could do with our EPA restyle technique, for instance, say, for instance, we were down here and we've wanted to lift it 3 inches. This will be around shoulder length, really. We could just do the layering technique that we did in week 1 of lockdown, which feels like ages ago, where we just slightly elevated our layers. So your layering techniques, as we mentioned, are anything from 90 degrees and up. So say, for instance, she just had a 1 length down low and you've lifted it 3 inches to where we've lifted it, and we elevated our layers up to here, just with our vertical sections all the way to the front. And we just took off that slight corner there, that little bit of layering. That's your change of shape, okay? You've took 3 inches and you've changed the shape, okay? Then every section, you just pull out back to the previous section, all of this back to here, elevate slightly higher in the front. So if you explain that through to her, say, I'm elevating above 90 degrees for my layers in the back, so everything's here. And I'm over directing each section back to the previous to extend some length into the front to control the finer piece of hair in the front hairline. But in the top, I'm just going to elevate a little bit higher just to add some more weightless feel in the top. Easy as that, okay? And I promise you, you will get a distinction if you speak like that. Through the whole exam, not just in your cut. But if we check our balance, hopefully this is balanced. Perfect. Balance sits really nicely. We get a really good, nice, even haircut. And our guest is really, really happy. So anyone, what could we do? What else could we do with the layers? Anyone got any ideas of what we could possibly do to change more shape in this haircut for an EPA? Anyone got any ideas?
What, like put a layer in?
Yeah. Could put a layer in. Yeah.
To do like forward graduation around the face.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Something is, I'm not going to put forward graduation in because you can see how short I've gone. I've gone so short already. But put a bit of forward graduation in, yeah? All you've got to do is stand in the front and just angle your fingers. So it's not that difficult. When you really try and actually work it out and think, what can I do? What is a change of shape? All you're doing is changing the shape of a piece of hair in the haircut. So really don't overthink it. Really don't find things too difficult or try and find things that are too confusing for you. Sorry, somebody just messed up. I thought it was one of you guys in the chat. Don't make things so difficult, but a bit of a layer. tiny bit of elevation to it. Or if they don't want layers, then they're being difficult, just lift it a tad, take a slight corner off, and you're still changing the shape. Put a bit of forward graduation in the front. That's going to push you forwards. So if someone just does a long graduation, that's fine. You're going to pass with a long graduation if they've not got layering in their hair, or if they've not got a long graduation. But if you explain things differently and you lower your elevation slightly, and then you lift your elevation a little bit higher, so almost uniform layer in the back, and explain that to your examiner, a lot of other people will just be doing uniform layers, doing long graduations. And then you put a bit of forward graduation in the front and explain why. Because we've pushed weight into the front by over directing back in our layers, we've got enough weight now to be able to silhouette something and almost make her cheekbone areas, bring something out in the client's face, explain that through. This mannequin's not a very good looking mannequin. She's got some very sharp facial features. She's got a really pointy chin, but use it. Say to somebody, because she's got a little bit of a squarer face, this lady, for instance, I want to put a little bit of softness in there to sort of take away the harshness. So the bit of forward graduation that we're doing is just going to help us to take that harshness away from her square face, or square looking. Don't say a square face, that won't go down well with your mum or your sister or your family member. But I don't know, say it's got a bit of a strong jawline. So to take the focus away from that and soften that down a little bit, we're just going to put some forward graduation in. If you explain it like that and show her that you're thinking about the bone structure, the body shape, the body position, and you'll be absolutely fine. Okay. So I'm not going to blow dry that because we're going to be here all day. I take ages blow drying. What I'm going to do is I'll blow dry it afterwards, send photos into the group so that you can see what we've done. But what I'd like you guys to do today is have a look at the EPA plans that I sent you, the EPA drafts, and see if you can draft one. Okay, see if you can draft what you're actually going to be doing in the day, or write down what you need to cover and just how you're going to do it, and have a think about it. Also, get your blocks out. Those of you who have blocks, get your blocks out and have a go. Okay, have a play, have a bit of a blow dry session in the day. Get somebody who's sitting in with you and your family or friends and blow dry their hair. Even if it's a bloke, like even if it's someone with my length hair, just blow dry it. Get yourself up and working and get your tools out. Okay. Is that okay? Is there any questions or anything? Anyone got anything they want to ask about the cut or ask about EPA while you've got me here? If there isn't, you can always speak to me in the group.
You recorded this, didn't you?
I did, yes.
Okay, cool.
So I'm going to post this and then we'll I'm going to stop the